Houston, we have a problem.
What's up, everyone? Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. This is your host, Vikka Draziv. Guys, welcome to the show. If you're watching us from YouTube, do comment, like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. And hit that bell icon if you're first time here. And do invite your friends who, if you think they're going to like the content we could do here. And if you're watching us from Flat Earth Research Network group or Heliopsychosis, do comment and tag your friends to join the show. And yes, we have other two groups called Flatten the Curve and World Flat Earth Association, which luckily just today we reached 16,000 members. But the funny thing about Facebook is that this group, World Flat Earth Association group, took us 2.5 years to get 15,000 members, and from past 1 year, it took us to get 1,000. So you could imagine how Facebook works, So if they really want, you are not to be seen. You're not to be seen. So anyway, we are happy that at least we reached 16,000 on World Flat Earth Association. Do join us there too. And finally, if you're watching us from realtruthseekers.com.net or rts.video, RTS is one of our main sponsors for most of our production and Heliopsychosis podcast. As I've already mentioned in all our shows, that it's a unshadowbanned, uncensored platform. Some of the biggest advantage of being on that platform is you could link your videos or your channel of YouTube there, and in case any video has been taken out, or even if your channel has been taken out, RTS would help to get your whole channel back, all your content, all your material. So make sure you guys check out RTS. And they do also have shopping, RTS shopping, where you could order t-shirts, hoodies, all Flat Earth themes, whatever themes you like, personalized stuff. So make sure you guys check it out. Big shout out to realtruthseekers.video. And yes, also Density Clothing Company. They also have some amazing prints of Flat Earth prints with maps and memes or anything you want to create personally can be ordered to there from Density Clothing Company, from our good friend Kevin Bovick. So that being said, let's jump into our host and panelist here. So my first co-host, you all know him, Rob Taylor from Flatten the Curve. Rob, how are you, bro?
And hello, Vikka. Thanks again, and thanks for all your work in organizing all of our conversations and Flatten the Curve. I was reviewing Flatten the Curve just now I have a friend from Mexico, and she was looking at the subtitles, and I was just reviewing the Fly the Curve. What a fabulous production that is. We could watch it again and again. It's always refreshing to see technical information, which is what we're going to talk about today. I've got some insight of my own about the moon and how the light will ebb away, and they both follow the same circle path above the Earth. It looks to me like as the sun gets closer, the sun or the moonlight dies away. Just like when a stronger light gets closer to any other light, well, we can't see the other light because the stronger light dominates. Well, such appears to be the way the ebbing of the moonlight, and such are the phases of the moon. So anyway, we'll talk more about that. Looking forward to it. Thanks for the invite, Vika and everybody else, Gene and James and Keith. Looking forward to everybody's input today. Thanks for the invite. Looking forward to it. Back to you.
Awesome, Rob. Yes, flatten the curve, as you said, is gonna stand forever. So welcome, brother. And our next co-host, you all know him too. He's from the production team and also moderator and admin in some of our groups. Gene. Gene, you there? We don't hear you.
Oh, sorry guys. Sorry about that. Vikka, how you doing, brother? Thank you for the invite. I'm always looking forward to Sunday nights. This is so cool. The moon is a great topic. Thanks, guys, for being here on the panel. This is going to be fun. Thanks to everybody in the chats who's listening again. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and spending your time with us. It's so great to have you all here. And this is going to be a great topic. You know, they want us to believe that something 4.5 billion years ago, something about the size of Mars crashed into the Earth, and that's how we got the moon. And we're gonna talk about stuff like that tonight. This is gonna be another great show, guys. Vikka, thank you so much. Like Rob said, Vikka's a busy guy who's putting this together for everybody, and I really, really appreciate it, brother. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, thanks to everybody that we all come together. So that's great, bro. Welcome. And the next, everybody know him too. Great monologues, great summaries, amazing inputs, researches on flat Earth. Keith.
Hey, Vika, it's good to be here with you and all you guys. Good to be here with you all again tonight. And yeah, it's going to be a fun show. It's a great topic. And I know all you guys are so excited that Artemis has taken NASA back to the moon so soon.
Very cool.
So anyway, I'm sure we'll bust them a little bit more throughout the show. But yeah, it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, kind of put a McDonald's up there, right?
Awesome, Keith. Welcome, bro. And yes, our final panelist, everybody know him too, and a flat Earth astronomer. Everybody's, at least from our chat and the people we know, are really excited and glad to know his stuff. And the people were asking him about his name of the channel too. So James, welcome, brother, and also mention your channel.
Thank you, guys. Can you hear me okay from Canada, first of all good in the audio still?
Very
perfect.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me back, Vikka. This is fun. You know, I like talking about my favorite subject, the moon. And I just love to observe it. And that's what I kind of consider myself, more so than an astronomer, just an observer, right? Just to figure out what this thing is. It's like, wow. Anyway, to be brief, yeah, my YouTube channel is IJAG9, and basically I started an astronomy vlog, basically of me documenting the moon and the cosmos and the sun, learning as much as I can, and you guys can come along for the ride with as I learn and figuring it all out, right? Considering all theories, observing first, not looking at any manuals, referring to the manuals later, but allowing my honest observations to dictate my intuition about this fascinating new realm, the flat Earth. Wow. So, anyway, thanks for having me back. It's really cool to be here with all you guys. Thanks let's have a great show. Yeah.
Oh yeah, James. It's a pleasure to have you, brother. And yeah, especially if we are also discussing the moon. So, as you said, it's one of the most mysterious object right there in front of us, and the only things the heliocentric people have about its theories, and there's so many different aspects about the moon that could be experimented, observed, and researched with true science, and that really debunks the heliocentric model and the ideas about the moon. So before we jump into all the different aspects of it, I wanted to bring up, as Keith said, the Artemis launch. What a big disaster for the globe Earthers, because they were waiting for more than 5 to 10 years for this mission, and what they get is two failed launch. And this has been happening with most of their missions. Most of the thing they are doing is just promoting and putting out these kind of mission propagandas, and a lot of sci-fi channels speaking about all their things coming up. But when the real time comes, when the date comes, there's always a problem. There's always some problem, and it's delayed for another a month, 2 months, or 5 years. I've heard that this could go. They just postpone it in reality to 2027. So another 5 years, right in the face. And they looked, oh, okay, 5 years, no problem. But this has been
Yep.
happening since the 60s, since the born of NASA. The same thing is happening. How many times we have heard about people going to the moon? We have images from the black and white newspaper that we're going to be in the 80s of the moon, on the 90s, or to the Mars.
Yeah.
The deception is so obvious, but the globe tarts, they can't see through it. They share all their memes, they share all this promotion from NASA, and they do everything. They talk a lot about it, and it's not happening. So it's nothing different
It's like James
with
Webb.
Artemis.
Say again, guys. Did you ask me a question, Gene? And
No, it's like the James Webb. It blew up too. The rocks hit it.
I thought you were talking about me.
Sorry.
I know
No,
exactly.
The
Totally.
James Webb
Yes,
telescope.
right. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just silly, isn't it? It's so obvious to us that they are faking it and just delaying it. Like, holy smokes, how can not the entire public see that this is just a bunch of nonsense, right?
And,
What
and
a
we
waste.
know
How much
this.
money?
Here's another one. When there's a movie coming out, or a new attraction, when they delay it, they're just trying to generate more interest. That's all it is. It's one big
Right.
fake clown show like all the others.
Sure.
So what do we do with it, right, guys? That becomes the question. Take our awareness that they are just BSing the public. How do we change that information into a positive, right? We got to figure out a way. That's why I kind of like discussing this cosmos and new reality with you guys. You guys are a lot of deep thinkers, and are the people in the chat too. We ask these questions.
I
Exactly, and this.
wonder,
Go ahead, Gene.
I just wonder if, I mean, we talk about how obvious and blatant this propaganda is, and people falling for it. Maybe they're just weeding us out like this. People really believe this stuff. That's mind-boggling to watch what they're doing, and they, like you said, we go, oh yeah, 5 years, no problem. Look, yeah, accidents happen, right? It's
They're
NASA. It's crazy.
they're really good at faking the support, right? On the online comments. You've noticed that, you guys? Does anyone? All these NASA fanboys just out in droves. It's all fake, man. I bet you it is. It's AI creating a false illusion of support. Has to be.
The majority have to be, but there are some really
There's some
NASA
real people
fanboys
doing it.
who eat NASA, who wear NASA, who dream NASA. There are lots, and there's so much misinformation and so much CGI and so much bullshit of NASA that they have entertainment. They just entertain themselves with whatever is given. So it doesn't matter the next 5 years, because they think that, because if we really think about it, in the last 30-40 years, what really the space program has done, because we are speaking about when these
No.
people went to the moon, they had 8 KB memory. That is half of Tetris game what we used to had.
Yeah, that's like a
The
toy from the
Tetris,
70s.
yeah, half of that. So you imagine, and now the technology that they have today, and they can go to the moon, you know, and China is going there, and everybody is doing some crazy stuff trying to bang in there. With the technology they are saying that they have, with all those telescope and all these you know, those rovers and everything, we should have 24/7 moon images and in real time, you know,
Absolutely.
and
They would have
monitoring the
hotels.
earth.
Right. Yeah. And not to mention real time of people standing straight up in North America and upside down in the southern region. Excuse me, that'll never happen.
Yeah, because the moon, if they're saying that the moon is a terra and is so near to the earth, it's a perfect satellite for us to monitor ourselves, right?
Of course.
Someone asked me yesterday, I think it was, what's going to happen with this Artemis launch? And I said, here's my two best guesses. One, they're going to delay it, or two, it's going to be an explosion and it's going to set them back 10 years. And if they do claim to go to the moon, obviously they're going to claim that they land on the dark side of the moon, so no one like James or myself can zoom in and watch them.
Right.
Yeah.
They've got the P900, the P1000 to contend with. No, they can't fool anybody anymore.
Right.
And you know what? That's why they'll never do it, because nobody can see it. Too many people have too much more technology than they do. Technology has overpassed NASA.
And they
Yeah, because
can't,
Right.
Go ahead, Genie.
I don't think they can really legitimately fake something like that anymore right now with what we can observe, like you're saying. And
that's what I'm getting at.
it's just
Yeah, maybe Nixon called from the other side to Joe Biden and said, you cannot fool these people anymore. They are woke up.
Well, they've got a big problem on their hands, guys, because if in fact they actually try to fake another moon landing, this time with CGI, they've got to pay attention to all the other mistakes that they made the first time and match them, right? Like the flag blowing and not blowing, and then the multiple light sources and why they weren't there this time. And why haven't you visited the fourth hole? I mean, come on. This golf course up there, this fictitious golf course, this is what we have to alert our friends and family about this, because I think it starts there, right? What is the moon? It's the first thing we can see to disprove their heliocentric nonsense, because it's right there, right?
And here's another aspect. The reason they stopped the moon landings, because so many people were already, even in 1969, I mentioned this to my mother, and she says, there were people exposing the fraud back in 1969. They could not continue it. It's impossible.
Oh yeah, that could be the reason they just scrapped it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's untenable. They can't keep it going. It's such a big lie.
And you know, one of the moon rocks that they brought back, I think they gave to Sweden, ended up being a piece of petrified wood. Some of them are missing.
That was the Dutch government. The Dutch government is, and they analyzed it as petrified wood. Yeah, exactly. Right. The 3 astronauts, right?
They lost the technology.
Yep.
And you know, Werner von Braun, I'm pretty sure he's on record saying it would take 2 tanks full of fuel the size of the Empire State Building each to get halfway there.
Yeah, but they did a round trip. Right. Yeah, they did a round trip with a small tank, right?
And hey, whatever happens to when you leave the atmosphere, so airplanes are stuck in the atmosphere. That's how we travel with the atmosphere. That's how planes navigate and don't go off course, and you can make turns because we're in the atmosphere. So when they went to the moon, they thought they left the atmosphere until they figured that out, and then they extended the atmosphere to outside the moon to cover that up.
Exactly, because the flat Earth people are exposing their fraud. That if space is truly a vacuum, there's no way to turn your aircraft.
Right.
And the jet engine simply does not function in space because there's no resistance. Jet engines jet engines require the resistance from the atmosphere to
Right.
push off, right?
Rob,
Exactly.
Rob, let me
nothing
ask you something.
space.
Rob, during the landings in '69, don't you think those thrusters landing would have caused a dust storm that would still be going on like today, maybe?
Exactly. That would be like touching the bottom of a murky pond, right? You touch the bottom of a pond and it stirs up all the dust.
Yeah, right.
Where's the holes, right? Where's the hole
Well,
of
it
the
takes
thruster?
ages
Right?
to settle in 1/6 gravity. Would take ages to settle, I think. I don't know. But then you watch the dune buggy and they're bouncing around nice, right? And then you watch the dirt on the wheels and it falls right to the ground. There's trickery going on right there. And it looks like a dummy driving that rover, by the way. When you watch those the original moon landing videos are so strange.
Yes, indeed. And
I
not
think
only
most
that, let's not forget when they landed that thing. Not only was there no crater and no dust blowing around, the crater was 8 feet deep. Okay,
right? Yeah.
Second of all, there was no dust on the landing pad.
Right on the feet. There's nothing at all.
And now, guys, they have to make all these mistakes again, so that the public doesn't see something different, right? No dust. Oh,
right. And how about when they left too? That spark and the thing pops in the air and the camera follows it.
Oh yeah, exactly. The little explosion that sends it rocketing highwards. Excuse me. It's worse than a cartoon. It's not even as accurate as a cartoon.
It's pretty comical.
I think that's one of the reasons they don't want to really go back and make all this shit, because we have much more technology and we're gonna destroy their whole, in a way, so everybody's looking with a magnifying glass, not only flat earthers, any skeptic, there could be people who are not flat earthers and would be looking into it. So they are the people are watching from all around. So
really,
and we know NASA known to screw up things. So yep.
So that's why Mars, right? Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, right. Helicopters on Mars, so we can't see them.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, the only way these people could do this Artemis program is as a successful, like they reach the moon. They need people like Stanley Kubrick or somebody like him to do it again, in a way, for the for the Globetrotters to, for all that money it's been moved and everything. Okay, everything is settled, all the money is gone. What's next? So yeah, but NASA is in a huge problem in a way, like they know very well that they faked it, and the people are really waking up in a way. They want to know, why the hell aren't we going again there? Why aren't we exploiting the resources that they say there is, and many other aspects of using this satellite, how they call it. So anyway, so how these people think that this moon was made, so we all know the official narrative, what they say, that it's supposed to be like crashed and is a part of piece of the earth, and it matches, it becomes round and it's perfectly as the size of the sun, so at a level of millimeters, so
no debris either.
Yeah, exactly. It formed a perfect sphere. Perfect, absolutely. Just so happens to be
it's pear shaped.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's a.
It will be.
But what are the chances of that? I know you're the listeners have heard this, but obviously 93 million miles and 286,000, and they line up perfectly at arm's length. Come on, the mathematical odds of that being true, no.
Exactly, and plus James, their orbits and their rotation. That's why they say we don't see the dark side of the moon. It's so perfection, right?
Yeah.
Tidal, orbital lock, I think they call it.
Yeah, exactly. And just the reason why there's no flaws is just because it balanced out over billions of light years. They hide things in their light years and their zeros, right? just so the
Astronomical numbers, the
yeah,
ridiculousness.
you know what I do, guys? I look at it like they provide the data of 93 million miles. So could in fact it be 93 miles? I don't know, or 9.3. It's
Right.
interesting if it's coded numbers, right?
Right, break them down.
Yep, could
take
be.
two zeros off.
Definitely not
So
millions. It's definitely not more than 1,000. It's definitely within the hundreds, less than 200.
it's very interesting to try and triangulate in your mind how you would do it to figure out how high these luminaries are, right? I think it starts with kind of a basic observation of what angle it is at, and then having another person observe it at the same time, and then somehow trying to do the math to figure out how high this moon is and the sun, right? I don't know. It's interesting to hypothesize about the height, right?
James,
What do you think?
James, remember the big experiment that took the line of they call it electric sun. Remember they took all the measurements of the angles of the sun along the same line of longitude, and what they've over more than a year, and what they found is by calibration, by triangulation, they could not calculate the location of the sun. The sun is it's almost like it's ethereal, and you know what? Because of the sun, the moon's no different.
Exactly.
We cannot
Right.
necessarily triangulate it. One way to do it is use crepuscular rays. Remember
Yep.
those when we see crepuscular rays, that's probably the best way to do it is right there. And that tells us the sun is obviously not millions of miles away. It's right at the center of all those crepuscular rays. There you go.
That puts it local, but it's still hard to put a number on it, though, isn't it? I don't know.
It is, right?
Well,
but if we
well,
go,
you know what? We'll probably never get it. We'll probably never get it precise because it's not a solid
Yeah.
object.
And
It's
it's
not a
moving.
solid object.
And you
So
can't
we've gotta make
triangulate
it-
off a ball.
yeah.
There you go.
So
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly right. So at the best, we can estimate, right? And that's all we need. If the Holy Creator if he needed us to know, he would tell us. You see what I mean? Do we really need to know? No.
But here's the other thing. To that, we can say, what can we learn? And that's like, if we ask these questions, I do believe intuitively we receive the answers. It's just a hunch, right? When we think to ourselves, what is this moon? And the answers come to you. You know, if I'm not alone here, but when you really think about it, everyone's cosmos and universe is a personal experience which communicates with you in ways which only you can describe. That's how I feel. Do you guys know this?
Life is a personal experience. Yes, exactly. And the Creator designed it that way. And when we analyze the sun and the moon, that's exactly what we find. And that was my observation when I first learned about that experiment. I thought what do we say? The light of Christ shines differently for each soul. The sun and the moon are no different. There you go.
There you
Very
go.
cool.
That's
All right.
that's
So
interesting.
the dark side of the moon, no one in the history of this existence, nobody saw the dark side of the moon. This in itself proves that there is no rotation to the moon. There is no rotation because, as they say, the Earth spins and sometimes varies in speed, on some time of the year. There should be a deviation and we should see something, because it's not because if the Earth is changing its speed, rotation speed, so what, the moon is also changing or what? Because, right?
That's awesome, Vikka. That's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, of course.
Actually
If
change
the
speed.
Earth is changing its
Unless
speed,
the moon is
where's the
spinning this.
evidence?
Unless the
evidence of
moon
all
is
this
keeping up with the
parallax?
same changes at the exact same time. That's
Yeah,
impossible
exactly.
right there. That's really great.
Where's the evidence of all this parallax and changes of motion? But hold on a sec. When we look at the Earth, we perceive no evidence of motion whatsoever. Zero, none. We set a glass of water on a table and it sits there perfectly motionless. There's our answer.
Very cool.
I think it was Eric who did a video not too long ago about the moon math magic and the incredible speeds that the moon would have to slow down and speed back up to orbit the Earth while the Earth is orbiting the sun at the same time.
Right.
To think that as the moon, moves away from the sun, it has to slow down a little bit, and as the Earth is chasing the sun, now the moon has to speed back up and catch back up with the Earth, while the Earth is catching back up with the sun. It's beyond ridiculous when you start thinking about the actual math of what they're saying about the moon moving.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All these angular, literally all these angular rotations, angular velocity, and momentum. And now let me tell you this: the basic engineering course that talks about rotations and angular velocity, that destroys all this planetary motion. That alone destroys all of it. It's simply incredible.
Exactly.
It's absurd. It's scientifically, mathematically absurd.
And as a result of an explosion 13 billion years ago, no less. They figure entropy drives me up a wall with all this stuff.
Yeah, entropy.
Wall.
Yeah, in which everything
Exactly.
exploded from nothing. There was nothing, and then it became everything. How did that happen?
Yeah, and
Right.
it formed this beautiful place we're living on.
Yeah.
Out of an
Oh, yeah.
Accidentally.
So if there is, yeah, go ahead, Jeannie, before we continue.
Well, I was going to say about the half a moon during the day. When you see half a moon, it's actually a quarter moon, right? Because full moons are really only half a moon. So when you see half a moon, like where's the rest of it? Doesn't that shine a light on anybody? I pointed that out to so many people. Half a moon. Look at where's the rest of it? You don't see anything. And they're like,
Right.
I don't know. It's transparent. So
here's what I was getting at. When we see the light of the moon, since you brought it up, Gene, here's what it is. When we're standing in the middle of New York City, there's a lot of ambient light around us. So when we look up in the sky, we're lucky if we see a few stars that are bright enough to overcome the ambient light all around us. Whereas if we go out into the Catskills or the mountains where there are no lights around us, we can see the stars now. When we're out away from the city, we can see the stars because the light from the city is not drowning out the light.
100%.
So that's a simple observation. When the sun and moon, they follow the same analemma, right? The same circle. So here's what I'm getting at. When the sun catches up to the moon, and right now the sun is going away from the moon, so the sun is gradually getting more full every night. Okay, the sun is moving away from the moon, and therefore we're seeing more of the light because the ambient light of the sun is no longer drowning out the light of the moon. And then after the sun is on the opposite side of the circle, the sun is going to start moving, catching up with the moon, and therefore drowning out the light. What I'm proposing here is that's the reason of the changing patterns of the moonlight. Because the sun is getting close to it, it drowns out the light, no different than the city lights drown out the light of the stars overhead. It's a similar phenomenon.
Rob, what I wanted to add, what you are saying and what Ginny's saying, that if you see a half moon, even in the day, it's half lit, and Ginny was asking where is going the rest of the moon. Okay, the thing is, there's a phenomena happening up there that, for example, if it's three quarter of the moon, even in the day you will see the 3/4 of the moon. Okay, and if it's half moon in the night, we're going to see that half moon in the day the same way. We are not seeing there's not just the light phenomena happening. There's something else happening there that we cannot see the rest of the moon, be it daylight or be it night.
Well, that's the charge, right? Vikka is like, so when the full moon always rises at sunset, right? And that's 180 degrees off, and then half a moon, a quarter moon, like we were saying, is at 90 degrees straight above you, and then it fades away, and it gets closer and closer and ends up nothing, and recharges, comes back around as another full moon again.
Every month, it repeats every month. You're right, absolutely.
13 times a year.
There's a definite relationship going on between the sun and moon, and the earth has been portrayed differently, right? They think it's like the moon is responding to the earth. Well, no, the way I see it, the sun and moon are absolutely reacting off each other, right?
Yeah, all of this stuff is
we will we will get into it in the further part of the show. Before that, we will try to discuss what is exactly the moon. What is it made of? What is the shape? What is for sure we know it's not a sphere. Okay, maybe it's a disk, but we don't know if it's a physical disk or it's just a light phenomena, or it's just a plasma. So could be anything. It's not a sphere. Okay, what are your okay, go ahead.
If you don't mind, Vika, sorry I just trying to follow up at the end of your introduction there. Here's what I will make this proposal. We know that there's two of the overhead stars, two of the moving stars, which are the sun and the moon. Okay, all the other stars, they have their circular path and they come in the middle and they do a little curlicue and they go back out. Other than that, they stay fixed in that semicircular orbit, circling pattern. Whereas we have the sun and the moon, which do the analemma. Both the sun and the moon do the analemma. For example, in the summertime for the northern hemisphere, the sun is doing a tighter pattern, and so is the moon. And then in the wintertime for the northern hemisphere, the sun and the moon, they do a wider pattern around the southern region. Now, there's that alone, and the similarity. There's enough similarity between the sun and the moon that leads us to the observation that just as the sun is not a solid object, the sun is a lens. The sun is a lens of energy, electromagnetic energy from the firmament, from the Rakia dome. So is the moon. The moon is the opposite of the sun. The sun gives out energy. The sun or the moon takes energy. The moon with its cold light, as we know, the moon is therefore the opposite of the sun and follows the same pattern. There's my main proposal right there. They're almost the same, only the moon has the opposite energy from the sun. Voila.
So one thing we could say that it's not a reflection, it's not a direct reflection of the sun, because the sun emits how you say, a warm light. The sun emits a warm light, an orange light in a way, and the moon emits cold light, so it couldn't be a direct reflection.
What about the diode and the cathode idea too?
Of course. We've covered that many times. Diode, cathode.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Whereas the sun gives off energy, the moon comes along and collects up all those radical free Roman vapors, to use Ghostbusters approach, right? Picks up anything that's left around.
Right.
Do you guys feel the moon is magnetic and the sun is electric? Is that the general consensus, or is it the other way around? Can you clarify on that?
The sun is supposed to be electric, yeah, and same as everything is electric. Most of even but there is more part of magnetism to the moon. Yeah, go ahead, Rob.
I'm sorry. The whole thing is electromagnetic. Everything. The human body's electromagnetic, right? They're just a different source of light. The sun is its own light. The moon is its own source of light. We have to analyze it differently, but it's similar enough to the sun that we can analyze them from the same pattern. There's only two luminaries. There's only two luminaries that follow the analemma. That's the sun and the moon. They are in the same category. Everything else.
So that's a double infinity right there. 2 8s, right? Double infinity.
There you go, right? There you go. Google infinity. Satan.
If the sun is supposed to be electric, the female part, the sun and the moon, the yin and the yang, so the electric and magnetic, that's why have the properties of magnetic. Also the sun, they both have, but it's the difference is there.
Can I ask you guys, how do you feel about the idea of being invisible luminaries up there? There seems to be some difference in opinion that, that's just a bunch of nonsense. Or do you guys, in general, what do you feel about the invisible nodes, luminaries, the equal size of the sun and moon existing out there? Do you think about that a lot?
What's your opinion dark matter?
Yeah, you mean the Rahu and Ketu?
Correct. Yeah. Vikka, correct. What do you guys believe in that? What do you feel about that? It's interesting. That sounds fascinating, right? Two invisible luminaries, if it's true. Couldn't that be cool?
Well, I would say also it might be even physical at all. I think all of you have watched that video, but with Professor Foster back in Australia through ABC, saying and claiming that the moon was plasma and no man would ever land on it. But you also have another philosophy or theory, I guess, that the sun and moon are both projections, and whatever that north node is, or the other nodes that might be causing some of the eclipse that we see, they may not even be in the sky. They might be blocking out the original source of where the light is coming from. It may not even be here in our realm at all. I mean, even science today, we all know that the sun is not powered by thermonuclear fusion. We don't know what powers the sun. We don't know what powers the moon. So whatever the source of the power that's making both of them light up, what's blocking that? I don't think there's a north node or another physical invisible object up there. I think something in a different realm is blocking the sun and the moon at certain times, causing the eclipse. I don't think the moon is causing the eclipse of the sun.
Yeah, that's why we're here, right?
That's part of my theory.
We're just fascinated by trying to figure out this system. What is this, and how do we connect and thank the creator and just understand more? We're all after those answers by studying the moon, right, and the sun. That's why. Yeah, go ahead.
Caveat, Keith. We do know what's powering everything. It's the power. It's the electromagnetic energy from the Rakia. The Rakia
yes,
power.
I'm in the mainstream definitions. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So we may not know. You're right here, Keith, and everybody else. We may not know exactly what's out there. We see certain things, but the fact that we don't know it doesn't mean that we don't know the general model. We know the general model, right? There's some things we may not understand, and we'll get there. Soon enough, we'll get there, right?
Right, Rob.
So okay,
like I said last week, they're organizing. We're organizing.
Right.
Right. So as James asked about the invisible celestial bodies, there are different texts we speak about this presence, but it's not very clearly said that it is a celestial body. It could be just a point somewhere, like notes, but it's
something like that, right? The Raku or some dark matter dark object up there that blocks the sun and the moon. It appears that way, right? Sure does.
Well,
yeah, but what James meant was that if it's actually moving in the sky, like as the sun and the moon, because if it's crisscrossing them and is the reason because it's supposed to be the eclipse, they have to be in the sky too, right? And or maybe the other way, what Keith said, that it's an effect from the below or any other places. So could be possible. This could be celestial body. It could be possible. This could be just points, some points that exist that does these distortions, or So
you guys know every solar eclipse, it will be a new moon, conveniently for the heliocentric side, right? But my question then, it really becomes from a geocentric point of view. If we know that there's a new moon at every solar eclipse, what is the moon actually doing? Is it going in front of it, above it, below it, behind it, or into the sun? Like, this is just to say, no moon has ever been filmed approaching or leaving the vicinity of where the sun appears to be, right? That footage does not exist. So can we rule out that it's the moon? If we rule it out, then what else could it be? And the only thing that I'm coming up with is possibly magnetic in some shape or form, or else it's going on outside of the prism or the container or the firmament or whatever you want to call it. There's things going on, obviously, that are projecting into here. So that's an interesting theory. I like recently, that could be very plausible. Go ahead.
Yeah, it could be possible, and you're very near to that. But before we really get into that, we need to discuss a few other points which are too important for us to understand in a better way ahead. So as I was saying about the shape of the moon, we don't need to go to the moon to see what is the real shape of it. Whatever it is, it's not a sphere. It looks like a disk. It may be not a physical disk. It's not a Terra, but it could be a light. As I said, could be plasma, could be anything. So what we wanted to, a key factor in there is how the shadow falls on the moon. Okay, if we see the eclipses, we see how the shadow actually passes through the eclipses on the moon. Okay, because if the moon was a sphere, the light, and if the earth was making the shadow, or the moon making a shadow in the eclipse, it should create that sine wave factor. The light diffuses, the light stretches on the moon. Okay, the how you say, the when the shadow passes through the room, it's not. It looks very much like it's a disc passing through a disc, or a
Right.
straight light passing through on a disc, not on a sphere. And this could be verified, like in a way. If we take a stick on under a sunshine on a stair, the shadow will take the shape of a share of the stair. If you take the stick and put it on an arc, or on a, or how you say, greenhouse which is curved, the stick is going to take the shape of the greenhouse. No,
Right.
so the shadow is taking shape on what it's falling. So this could be observed on the moon very clearly. And James, you could do it for the next eclipses, and you can see how the shadow is moving through the on the moon, on the surface of the moon, or whatever it is made of. But the way the shadow moves,
I do
and
have. Go ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I agree. Absolutely. I do have footage from November 18th of 2021. It's on my YouTube page. And I filmed from my perspective a shadow coming from the top down, whereas someone, I think, actually a friend of mine in Utah, filmed it coming from the side. Right. So it's obviously a perspective based phenomenon, which does not appear as a solid, blunt line. It seems to be like the, in quotes, Earth's shadow, but I doubt that highly because it's not. Whatever is blocking out the moon's light is not, it seems to be almost like hairy, not, but it's not hairy. It's I'm just laughing
Bigfoot.
because when you film something going in front of the moon in the foreground, such as a building, the line will not be distinct either. So therefore, it very well could be a very sharp line. It's just that we need to re-understand light and the way it projects and perceived before we can make conclusions, I find, based upon what is the solar or the lunar eclipse. I don't know, but you can check out that video that I made and make your own conclusions. It's probably astronomy log number 40 or something, but you'll see it. Just look
Well,
for, yeah, lunar eclipse, November 18th. I didn't get enough footage, but at least it's something. And I know there's, everything we can gain about observing the moon every chance we can. So that's why I filmed that night as well. So what do you think?
Right,
Is it
and
the
possible?
also,
lunar,
Go ahead. Yeah,
no, go ahead,
go ahead.
James.
the
No,
the
what
lunar.
do you guys think? Well, do you guys think that it's possibly, like, it's just interesting to speculate about what is this? It's the exact, no, actually, whatever was in front of the moon was much larger than the moon. Okay, because I know this because when I filmed the solar eclipse, whatever passed in front of the sun or caused the magnetic phenomenon to block out the sun, it was precisely the same size, right? But what I've witnessed on November 18th, I believe, of 2021 with the lunar eclipse is that the shadow extended much far beyond the general size of the moon. So it was much larger. So therefore, I don't know, what was it?
Yep. Yep. So one another phenomena, James, what's happening there also, when the eclipse is passing, that the shadow, as you said, your friend saw from one side and you saw from other side. For him, it was coming from the right. For you, it was coming from the up. For maybe someone coming from the left. But one important point we could observe also when the eclipse is happening, that the shadow don't cross directly the surface from top to bottom, or left to right, or right to left, or down to up. It 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 passes half the way, and then it starts turning to 110-degree angle, to 120, and then go away. Try to observe this also in your next observation on the eclipses, that it just don't just cross directly, it just rotates in a way. So maybe they could help to understand what object it could be, or what is happening.
Well,
Right.
well, Vika, that's a phenomenal advance I didn't know that was the case. First, now let's think about this physically. If we got a shadow going across something and it changes direction, that shows that there's alteration in the movement of that object. Okay. In other words, we know that the sun and the moon, they follow a continuous circular pattern. It's the analemma, right? But it's still a continuous circular pattern. What you're implying here, Vikka, that if something changes its shadow pattern, there's something else up there that we don't know about. If it changes its angle, like you're saying, if it comes across halfway and then changes its movement across the moon, that's an entirely different pattern of motion up there, which I don't know about. And I don't know if anybody else knows about it. I've never read about it.
It's
So,
just,
So that
that's
Can I
a
say?
radical aberration from our circular patterns. The heavenly orbiting spheres, well, the sun and the moon, they make a circular pattern across above the circular motionless Earth. Well, if there's something up there changing direction, that's a radical aberration from our known circular pattern. Please talk more on that.
and it's happening all the time. Every eclipse is happening. It's not only one eclipse in a blue moon that it happens, because if it's what these people say, it's the Earth in the middle or the moon in the middle for the eclipses, it should just cross straight away, straight,
Yeah, exactly.
without any deviation.
That's my point, Vikka. Yeah, if it were to follow our normal circular patterns, we would see a continuous and symmetrical shadow covering of the moon or the sun. But now you're saying it's not. It changes direction. That changes everything. That's completely radical.
I thought about that problem, Rob, and I thought, okay, could it in fact just be a perspective-based phenomenon? Because
No,
let's
it
say
can't.
I want to remain open that it could be because the only reason I want to say that is because if my friend was observing a sideways moving shadow and I was moving in a upright moving shadow, we got to remember we're 2,000 miles apart, right? And a lot changes based upon how we perceive the cosmos.
James,
upon,
there would be no
Right.
change if it was
Yeah,
continuous.
maybe a perspective is different, but there shouldn't be any turning around. There should you should see from left to right all the way. He should see right to left all the way, and
Yes.
another from up to down all the way.
well then,
Right. It
okay,
should be
guys.
smooth transition.
Well, why did we see different things then? That becomes my next question.
That's the question, James. What is this thing up that's moving? What is this, right? I don't know what it is.
We got to figure it out, but that the only way to do
Oh,
it,
we will.
yeah.
Maybe we'll try to figure it out at the end of the show. Yeah, but let's see.
So,
Okay. So here, what I'm trying to explain here is that the shape of the moon cannot be a sphere, because, for example, you are in a room, put a globe or a ball, the globe we find in the school, the same one we put in our room on the light of the other room and try to close the door. You see the shadow of the door, how it moves on the globe, because it's a sphere. The diffusion, the stretching, the way it's happening, we never see that on the moon, be it phase, be it eclipses. It's not
Yeah, you're
happening.
Right. It does. It looks like there's a disc going over another disc. It doesn't even look like two discs. It just looks like what would be a disc. It just disappears. And yeah, the diffusion is gone. Anybody could try that out there with
Yeah, and the spotlight and the heat spot, the heat, there should be a spotlight also in a way, if it was about the reflection too. So yeah, there's so many different aspects to it that doesn't make sense on the heliocentric model or about the moon.
Now you could take a square shape and shine the shadow on a basketball or something, and you'll see that the shadow takes the shape of the ball, not the square.
Well, yeah. I mean,
And that's where the diffusion comes in. It stretches around the ball and it reaches into areas and fades away. And it's not what we're looking at all. It's a great experiment to try, guys. We've said this stuff before too. One of my favorites, because we're looking at in the sky is not the result of three balls flying around each other. It's not.
I know.
It's just
Oh
not.
goodness.
And seriously, take anything. Take a kitchen knife and shine it across a basketball, and you'll see that it's not what you're looking at in the sky.
Man,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's
Gene, did you
the
say there's no balls in the sky? Is that what you're saying, Gene?
Correct.
There's no heavenly orbiting balls, okay? Because that's what Copernicus is all about. Heavenly spinning balls. It's all about balls. And here you telling us there is no such thing as balls in the sky. That's awesome.
I'm
I think you
convinced.
call those guys heliosexuals.
Yeah,
goodness.
heliocentrism is all about spinning balls. If we haven't noticed, it's all about the spinning balls.
Not to sidetrack, guys, but I will just briefly. The only interesting thing that I'd like to film has to do with Jupiter's moons, and if it apparently the moons are orbiting Jupiter, I would like to film this, only because from what information is provided for us that it is documented as happening. Therefore, man, it would be just really, really cool to film that.
Who says it's
Yeah, right, James.
documented?
You mean
I want to point out on the Vikka podcast, somebody posted a photo of, and I think it was their own P900 or P1000 image of Jupiter with its 3 moons on the side. And from that perspective, the 3 moons, perspective-wise, if Jupiter was so far away, millions of miles, right? The size of the shape of those moons so far away from Jupiter would have made them that would have been an impossible distance to be revolving satellites around Jupiter. So I'm going to use that and say those do not orbit around, they don't circle around Jupiter. It appears that's what I'm saying.
Exactly, but that's precisely what I wanted to say, right? Like, can we witness the phenomenon of, in quotes, orbiting anywhere? And
Exactly.
to say that,
where is it?
I've
Where's
noticed
the evidence? In other words, that's what you're saying. What's the evidence? And it ain't there.
precisely.
James, the phenomena have to be very similar what's happening near the Earth with the moon of the Earth. So the light we are seeing there as the moon, it's have to be in a way something similar. So I don't think it's supposed to be rotating around. So.
Well,
James,
I've
it's just another claim that we cannot observe in reality. I mean, there's so many of those claims that they say this is what's happening, but we can't observe that anywhere. I think it's the same with the. I went looking.
Right.
I went looking last week what you're talking about, and I could not find anything except for cartoons of those moons going around Jupiter. I could not find any actual real astronomers' footage of showing those moons moving.
Let's go back. Let's go back to what we know. We know there are lights in the sky, and so what? If there's a light in the sky with 3 little, maybe 4 little lights around it, so what? There's more lights in the sky.
So what?
Just like the other. So
Exactly.
what, right? We know the model. The fact that there's 4 little lights going around or next to another one, that doesn't change the model. There you go.
It's
James.
true.
Did you and Kevin end up filming that? And from the 2,000-3,000 miles away you guys are, you should.
Yep.
If you see a different perspective, it would prove a lot right there. Right? How did that go?
Kev has got he's working on it right now.
Okay,
and
great.
Originally it was me who was so busy I couldn't do it. And I know what Kev is going through right now. He's got a lot going on. So basically what we've noticed is since we've done that dual simultaneous filming, I've made a newfound intrigue to filming Jupiter. So I've done so every night just before midnight, just to document the changes in the moons. And I've noticed a few things, guys, and what they are is there's a difference that happens in dramatic difference in 2 hours, but there's also a subtle difference in the moons every half hour. You can notice the changes, and they're completely different every night. Some of the time I've seen a moon extremely close to Jupiter, like really close, but not actually emerging from the back yet, right? And just to briefly say that even if it works favorably, conveniently for the heliocentric side, that I am able to film a moon emerging from the backside, that still doesn't, lower any intrigue for me in the geocentric reality, because that intel we can say that maybe Jupiter does have some degree of three-dimensionality to it, right? Okay, so that's interesting. We thought it was just lights or projected lights, but if in fact I can film a moon coming from the backside of Jupiter, then that would absolutely indicate that there's dimensions to Jupiter, would it not?
How do you know it's the backside there?
I was just
You
going to
don't know
say
what's
that,
up the
Rob.
backside.
Precisely. Good point.
How do you know?
We have
exactly.
no idea what's up. It's a light. It's a light in the sky, just like the Holy Scripture says. It's a luminary. There's a little luminary next to a big one. Okay.
Well, the
And you see
telltale
what I
thing
mean?
here.
Yeah, even the sun and the moon looks three-dimensional.
True, it does have a slight
At
degree of
times.
convexity,
At
right?
times.
At times, but
is-
yeah,
right.
because as we say, if it's luminaries and it's illuminating for everybody on this plane, so they're gonna see from every different angle in a way. So it have to look or emit as a three-dimensional light. Could be.
Well, it throws a whole new spin on our knowing of what we're looking at. So there's no loss here. I will continue to film and I'll upload once it's ready, just so we can observe.
Keep looking.
It would be interesting to see if in fact. Go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. You got an idea going, but I want to bring up basic rifle marksmanship next. Go ahead, James.
Okay, brother. Yeah, well, if, going with the theory of sonoluminescence, imagine that these moons suddenly appeared out of nowhere instead of, they lose their luminosity and then they regain it. That's a possibility,
moon,
right?
Right?
Exactly.
Kind of like,
exactly.
Kind of like what's going on here.
I mean,
then we can analyze Jupiter's so-called moons just like ours. There you go. Similar phenomenon.
But we all kind of agree that the moon appears to look slightly convex, right? Have you guys thought about this? Have you ever seen the moon appearing concave? It's very subtle. Sometimes you can see it. Yeah.
I can throw this out, James, right now. One time I was at a flight. They did a camera photo of my eye, the very back of my eye, and I thought, oh my gosh, that looks like the moon. Literally, the back of the human eye looks like the moon. It's just a lens that receives light. You with me here? The lens of my eye, like everybody else, the very back of my eye, it looked just like the moon. And what do you say the moon?
We're having an echo.
Oh, I don't. It's probably my Bluetooth. Long story short, the moon receives light just like my eye. That's why it looks the same. It looks identical. Go ahead. I'll exit and come back.
Well, exactly right. Well, we also have to consider that the shape of our eyes also has a role in this, I feel, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, that could be the reason that maybe we see it a little bit three-dimensional. So
anyway.
The shadows of the craters are interesting.
Say again, buddy.
Yeah, the shadow really. Yeah, and go ahead, finish it, Gene.
No, I was just saying that they're kind of interesting, and the shadows are interesting, and the depth of the craters seem to all be the same depth. That they're all circles.
Exactly. If it's from the meteor, it should have different depths, right?
Yeah, you think so. Some of them
come from the Earth too, because they're all direct.
And there's no trail on, like, so they all.
So the Earth go
right, exactly. Right, and some of those craters have 5 craters inside of them. Some of them are huge craters, and they have other craters inside of them.
It's funny, guys.
It was a huge. Strange. Let me tell you, everybody, when I saw that photo of the back of my eye, and the optometrists, they rarely do this, but for the military, they do it whenever they want because they have the money, whatever. When I saw that photo of the back of my eye and how closely it resembled the moon, the face of the moon, that settled it all right there. The moon is just a lens that receives light. Seriously, that's all it is. And then when it seems to go away, literally the sun disappears in the sky. The moon is actually quite a complex object up there. It's no different than the sun. We can't if we can't triangulate the sun, we can't triangulate the moon. There's something very complex up there, and it'll be nice, like James keeps saying, it'll be nice to understand exactly what's going on. But if you don't mind, let me go into my rifle marksmanship example, okay? James, you're talking about analyzing everything, and so are we. We all want to analyze and understand things. I just want to bring out a basic scientific study here, a basic phenomenon. It's a practice, okay? Before we analyze something more complex, let's always remember, okay, I'll say this again clearly. Let's always remember to start with our basics. If we want to shoot a deer in the woods, well, we got to remember our basic rifle marksmanship, which are hold your rifle steady, squeeze, let your breath out halfway, and then squeeze that trigger. Don't jerk it. If you with me here, that's basic rifle marksmanship. Well, let's not forget our basics. We have to use basic rifle marksmanship for every aim shot that we take. Well, anytime I want to understand the luminaries, the heavenly luminaries, well, let's not forget our base, which are the fact that they are lights in the sky, because that's what the Holy Scriptures tell us. Lights in the sky. Let's observe them, but let's not forget they're lights in the sky. You see what I mean? That's the basics.
Right. Right. What I wanted to add about also the creator that as Jeannie was saying, that they are all the same depth. There's one phenomena, James, that is happening also, that if not all, if not most of the creators, if you really find focus and try to see the creators, most of them looks like have a hexagonal form, not even round. Okay, so the next time on the full moon, you could try to really look into this observation, that why is it something like that? Because if it's hexagonal, there couldn't be this meteorite making an hexagonal impact.
Vikka, that's
an excellent
point. If we use the P900, P1000, and we look at these lights, they're just like a neon light in the sky. Okay, so if the stars look like that, well, the sun and moon are no different. Okay, they're just an ethereal entity. They just look circular. You see what I mean? There you go. That adds to the fact that they're just lights in the sky. Where do they get their energy? From the Rakia dome, just like the other stars. Electromagnetic.
Yeah, hexagons make a perfect pattern with each other, you know.
Well, I'm intrigued personally about there being much more than just simple lights. I mean, I'm not any discredit to what you just said, Rob, but I feel like when we just classify something as just a light, don't you feel like there's way more to it? Like, holy smokes, no, we're not talking. Yeah, the energetic value of what these luminaries bring.
James, Jesus said, unless we see the world as through the eyes of a child, meaning uncomplicated and uncluttered with the ideas of men, unless we look at things in a simple fashion, we'll not understand it. So that's all I'm doing is going back to the basics. Yes, let's understand it, but still it's a light in the sky. We can look at it all day long, right? But still just a light.
Well, from an observational point of view, right? Like, sure, they look like just lights. I hear you, man. We have to figure out, like, there must be more to it, though. And I know you asked those questions too.
There can be eons of research behind it, but still, like the Holy Scripture says, it's still light in the sky. Yes, let's look into it by all means. I'm sure it's quite complicated. Like I alluded to, the moon is absolutely complicated, because unlike the sun, the moon disappears entirely. What is this thing that disappears and then comes back on like a symmetrical basis? It goes away and it comes back. Gee, that's like, seriously, that's like the smile on the Cheshire cat. You see what I mean? It goes away and it comes back. You see what I mean? We don't know anything else.
Yep. So for example, the sun is working the same way as a microwave works. Okay, it's concentration of energy together and creating that heat. So the sun working in our atmosphere is happening the same thing. The sun is taking the energy from the earth and from the dome, or from another dimension, we don't know, and it's concentrating at one point. and as a microwave effect on the atmosphere, is just heating the atmosphere. Okay, this is what is happening. What it could be, the sun taking from the other dimension, whatever, but the things we more or less know is taking energy from all different places. So the same thing could be with the moon. Okay, it is depending on the sun for some parts, but we cannot understand all the aspects of it. You know, does it have some interdimensional connection to it? You know, same as the sun, we don't know.
And that's what James is talking about. What are all the other factors in our luminaries? There's got to be hundreds and thousands of factors here. Of course there are. There's many. But what we can see, we can only see what we can see, right? We're still just mortals after all.
Well, that's why
Sadly.
that's the basis behind my fascination with starting to figure this thing out, because I absolutely had no interest in the cosmos for my entire life until the flat earth awakening immediately turned my eyes to the sky to say, what is going on? Like, this is unbelievable, right? This is like nothing else matters, man. You guys, right? I mean,
there you go. James,
like
well said.
yeah.
You know what you're saying? Once we wake up to the true creation, what we're discussing here, we're discussing creation science. Once we realize what it really is, I've been telling people, flat life. The gospel of Jesus Christ is flat. The truth is flat. Everything. Once we understand, James, I'm branching off. I'm expanding on what you're talking about. Once we understand that the creation is flat, then all the school sciences, all the university sciences, those go away. They mean nothing. Now it's time to realize this beautiful, fantastic timepiece creation that's all around us, that works on its own, and we have no idea how it really works. Gee, you're exactly right. Our entire study needs to go into the creation and how it works and the ideology of the holy creators. And they gave us our path to a peaceful life, but nobody follows it.
Well said, exactly. And that's the byproduct of waking up. Right.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
amazing. We're re-educating
It's
ourselves.
truly amazing. And we gather here every week for an hour.
All right, so sorry guys, I did
an hour and a half.
I did that by mistake.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's all right. So where else, James, continuing on and everybody else, where else do we spend an hour and a half discussing something with 4 other guys on the internet at random? We don't. In our lives, this is so this is so fascinating. Here we are.
And how about everyone?
And we still,
right?
Yeah, and everyone who's joining us, right? So, oh yeah, we have still quite a few things to discuss about the moon. So we're gonna take a short break, and we'll be back, and we'll continue, right, guys?
Voila.
Excellent.
Sounds good.
Study. That's the answer. Study.
There's not one authentic picture of this oblate, pear-shaped, spinning ball that they claim we live on. Sorry to tell you, the only thing that's been to space is your imagination. There is no such thing as space. For thousands of years, all ancient civilizations knew the Earth was flat. Until 500 years ago, they took the Word of God and they turned it upside down. They said, no, we revolve around the sun. The sun's in the middle, and we're spinning through space and wobbling with the sun at over 600,000 miles per hour. When an organization of pseudoscientists tell me to go completely against what all my senses tell me, that we're stationary and flat, I see it's flat, it's immovable. And I'll go outside when I send a camera up without GoPro or fisheye lens. When I send a balloon up 100,000 feet and it shows the horizon flat, I can't go against that. When I see skylines 60 to 100 miles away, when spherical geometry says they should be behind the curve. All this stuff isn't adding up. There's not one authentic picture of this oblate, pear-shaped spinning ball that they claim we live on. I'm sorry to tell you, the only thing that's been to space
I remember my
is your imagination. There is no such thing as space.
You guys land on the moon,
No,
which
you
was
didn't. No, you didn't.
what?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. So you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories. Well,
All right, welcome back, guys. What an awesome topic we have today. We have Rob, Gene, Keith, and James with us to discuss this. And just gonna give a quick shout out to the people in the chat. There's Tommy Rogers, Stephanie Campbell. There is James too. There is Dr. Frankenstein, and there is Jay Daddy. Hey, brother. There is Brian Roy, and there is Winker Knox. Hey, brother Winker, nice to see you here, bro. And there is Lisa Marie Nicholas, Virginia Dare, Tom Budas, and there is Lady Jacqueline, Jess Palmer. Hey, brother, Flat Thumbs. And there is Mike Sudnik. Then there is Effie Nation. Hey, Carl, brother. And then there is 711 Lucas. And a few people from Facebook. Then there is Paul Gould. And there is IPPA Fee. Can pronounce it very well. So yeah, the moon. No matter how much we discuss and all the aspect we can, but it's always gonna be a mystery. The moon, yeah, definitely. I same as I love the sun, I love the moon too. I follow them all over the whole year. You know, I'm seeing how they move to the winter, to the summer, to the equinox, to the spring, to the autumn. So one of the other aspect I wanted to discuss was the tides connected with the moon. What are the ideas?
You asking for opinions?
Yep. What's going on with the tides and with the moon?
Huh. I often think about that. There's definitely something we can learn about why lakes do not respond, but yet oceans do. Do you think that the moon would have, well, yeah, we can say that makes sense, right? But I've asked myself if in fact is a result of the moon and an electromagnetic attraction, how can we test that? I mean, is it just as simple as passing a magnet over a salt water versus non-salt water and seeing if we can somehow see any results?
Yeah, like if you had like a bubble, magnet to a bubble, in the two ways you can watch. One, the magnet will push the salt water, I think. Pretty sure I saw that. Haven't done it.
If in fact it's true and it has an effect, can we then say that the moon is absolutely magnetic? So does that mean absolutely the sun is purely electric or a combination of both, as Rob was saying? Like this.
Right. Well, magnetism and
they both play. Yeah, go ahead, Jeannie.
I was going to say magnetism and electricity are like brothers. They they create each other, kind of. They go hand in hand.
Yeah, electromagnetic radiations,
right,
in a way. So I think that both, because the heliocentric model says that is the gravity of the moon that is changing, that doing the tides. Some other theories about the nodes, some theories
nodes,
about the center of the earth because of the whirlpool. But there are many different theory about what could be happening with the tides.
At the minimum, we can say our observations are highly more accurate than that heliocentric ball worship they've got. That's why they worship balls, because it's all about Baal, B-A-A-L, the satanic Lucifer god of the Old Testament. Ball worship, balls.
to me that one of the problems with the tide is that the moon only goes over the Earth, or on their model, around the Earth once a day, but yet we have 2 high tides each day. So it seems to make more sense that the tides are being affected by maybe the sun and the moon, or the electromagnetic dance between the two of them, affecting the salt water, which is a great conductor of electricity.
Exactly.
But I've never been able to comprehend how there's 2 high tides every day, but the moon only goes across once.
That's
How often
making
are you gonna hear that? Electromagnetism. There you go.
well, that's making the assumption that there is just one moon, right? Like I know the Enoch theory is that there's 4 moons. And who knows if there's invisible nodes which have these equal electromagnetic effect on the oceans. So I'm always open-minded to considering that, right?
There's a two-way relation between the Earth and the sun and the moon. That's why, because of that, the tides and the diamagneticity of the water and the pull and the push. So the electromagnetic energy of the luminaries and the electromagnetic energy of the Earth is also important to count in the electromagnetic energy of the Earth. That is one of the reasons, the supposed reason, most of the luminaries circle around us. We don't circle around nothing. Everything circles around us. The opposite of what the heliocentric, the opposite of what heliocentric model says. So it much more possibilities that they both are playing an important role of pulling and pushing, as also someone mentioned about the cathode and as Keith says, the negative and the positive. So, and the electromagnetism part, yes, definitely the moon, we could feel that magnetism because when there's a full moon also, the tides are moving and the winds are high, the animals are going crazy, the humans are going crazy in a way, some the lunatic word. So there is a connection, as Rob mentioned also, that we are electromagnetic. So it is playing a part, both the sun and the moon. So the menstruation cycles in the women, the growing of the trees and the plant that need those cycles, especially of the moon. The animals really hunt on the full moon because it's and it does affect the normal people too, even the men's in a way. They are much more a bit hyped up with the full moon. Even if you are not, you don't feel like it really hyped up, but there is a sensation of, so everything really changes in a way when there's a full moon, and that includes the tide too in a way. So
what kind of fascinates me too, Vikka, is like, yes, it's definitely affecting us, but then remember, I bring it up again, it's a 2-way relationship, right? We must be affecting it as well. So therefore, that is why I'm intrigued about figuring out what is the moon, what is the sun, right? There's got to be a way we can figure out this energy exchange better between us and the luminaries. That's the secret they're trying to hide from us, guys. I feel like it. They don't want us investigating stuff like this. That's why I love
there's a reason.
They don't want us to investigate.
The other thing I wanted to add, James, is this. That if this is affecting us, for sure, maybe it's affecting, as you say, 2-way relation. But it's so much, how you say, it's so much in front of us that how much it's affecting us, at least the moon in a way. As I spoke about the menstruation cycle, the plants, the growth, the harvesting, the many different things, the seeds, and the people and the humans and the animals. So it's so important, the days of the month, of the 28 days of the moon, and the cycle and so if there is so much connection between us and all the part of creation with the moon in a way, so there have to be so many more things that these people are hiding from us that they know.
Absolutely. That bothers me a lot. What are they hiding?
Yeah.
These simple things, and we know a few of them. We know a lot of them, but there's
Why you
I just
think
wish they would go away.
Why you think I'm filming the moon like every chance I get? right? I want to figure it out so badly, and I want you guys to, like figuring it out too. It's awesome.
Sure. This is another reason that drives me up a wall is why does the Vatican have such a high interest in the celestial events? Why do they have so much time and money invested in these telescopes around the world?
Yeah, they
Something's
know.
going to happen. Something's
They
going to
know.
happen up there. Something's going to shift or move, and they probably, they know what to do when that happens, and we don't.
But the thing is, they like to think they know, right? But in actuality, they don't stand a chance. The creator is so much, he's, yeah,
That's true,
you guys, right? I mean, try as they might, they will never succeed. And this is absolutely.
Yeah. But it seems it's like I was saying recently, if this is really a spiritual chess game, it's like the bad guys lost and they're just destroying the board, but the game has to be played out, kind of.
Unfortunately, right? That's part of the.
Seems like that too. Look what's going on around here. It's mayhem. And it's going to get worse.
This is exactly what we think about here. Everyone here in the chat and us five, we think about the biggest pictures we can about what is going on. How have we allowed this deception, or was this part of the deal that we signed up for? About what is, yes,
I think we're here to help straighten it out, though. A lot of people don't understand what the hell we're talking about, I can't even believe that.
Yeah.
Just
we definitely have a role. There's got to be a point. Some people are awake and others just, they forget about it,
The NCPs, right? Not NPCs, non-playing characters.
It's very alarming to think about the possibilities that perhaps there's a lot of cloning going on, and these what we think are normal people are not people. Like it's when you investigate the flat earth, you do go down these rabbit holes of everywhere, and you try to figure out how badly have they been lying, right? But really, when it comes down to it, guys, at some point we just say enough of that. We got to figure out what is above us. How is this awesome creation causing us to be alive, and how can we make it better? Right, man, it's just I'm on a good rant, but go ahead.
I often wonder if this is really a breeding ground for spirits, and this is not the world, the only world, that's for sure in my mind. That this could be just like my whole life to me is like one day in kindergarten for my spirit. That's it. It's the whole life, all 80 years of it, whatever I get out of this place. So just gonna try and be good to everybody.
Yeah,
figure these liars out. You can't live. That's why they hide the truth, because the truth, knowledge is power. The truth is power.
Yeah.
So, and these simple things, we're gonna figure them out, guys. Here we are.
It's so true.
Oh yeah,
it's great to be here with you all.
One thing is for sure, that it's not the gravity of the moon that is the reason for the tides. So the J-Daddy says Salt Lakes are not tidal.
Just say that, yes, Salt Lakes are not tidal. Very cool. Thanks, Jay.
Exactly, because of the as we spoke about in other podcasts too, that it's not supposed to be diamagnetic. The salt water is diamagnetic, and that's the reason of the pull and push and the differences of the tides. Because there are some places that is salt water, and there is not so much tide differences. That also has its own reason, because of the electromagnetic energies of the two, of the luminaries and of the Earth, are kind of neutral. There is no excessive or less, so there are different parts of the world that has that extremes or normal, but there are some places that are neutral. That's why there are no tides. Even it's at seas there are, but it's very minimal. Or in some places there is much more than the general levels of rising, because of the electromagneticity of the Earth and these luminaries.
Yeah, sometimes the high tide up in Alaska could be like a 20-foot difference, versus the same time the high tide in the Caribbean is only about 2 feet. So it's not just the gravity.
Exactly.
There's something else going on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I read a while back that they do measure a tide in like Lake Superior, and they measure it to be like 2 millimeters. I thought that was crazy. I thought they were just saying that personally, because how do you measure Lake Superior to
Oh,
2 millimeter tide? That
2 millimeters
sounds insane.
a lot. 2 millimeter, even a boat can create. That tide for just for the.
Ah, yeah. I'm like, how do they even measure that in the size of Lake Superior? Are they kidding? Is that serious? I don't know. But I thought that was kind of crazy.
Seriously.
2 millimeters. That's like the thickness of your
there's
finger.
there's some mineral content. Even in fresh water, there's an amount of mineral content. Okay, so when a body that big, we can expect some, right?
Well, yeah, okay, sure, but
That's all
Right.
it is, mineral content.
I just question how they come
But
up
still,
with that number.
it's infinitely small.
Oh,
Yeah, but
amount.
is it
Yeah, exactly.
Rob?
How do they measure?
Rob, do you think it's measurable?
that's the thing, guys. If there's
I
any
agree.
intrigue,
I'm agreeing. That's infinitesimally small. Yes, exactly. That's what I'm agreeing
all
on
right.
that. Yes.
Cool. Yeah, I thought so too.
remember though, it's these details that
Yep.
they want us to waste time trying to figure out, right? Forever in debate is how they win.
Exactly.
True. We're going around in circles.
Yeah,
We got to
that's
just
my point.
focus.
None of this changes the model, right? None of this changes the model, right? It doesn't change the model. 2 millimeters doesn't change the model, guys. You heliocentric ball worshippers.
Yeah, could you imagine, guys, a heliocentrist going out trying to verify lake tides and proving for himself madly that this is for sure going to prove that it's a ball? Oh man, you just never see
exactly.
these
Now, come on, the curving water is just insane. It is.
Can you believe we missed it all our lives? We looked at the oceans. We did not see this. Oh man,
that doesn't bother me as much as like after you are shown it. I missed it. Yeah, I missed a lot of it, right? But after I was shown, I was like, oh wow. It's just I had no problem seeing this stuff. No problem at all, and it all fell apart like in one day. Boom, big space fan, and it was over. So if you understand more of that story, you understand how it falls apart.
Oh yeah, we were so excited about seeing the aliens on the moon, and right?
Right? Yeah, sure.
We were also excited about seeing the aliens on the moon, or
definitely
being a how you say, space lovers, as we all were before. Yeah. So we still love the space, the real realm. It's much more beautiful than their sci-fi fake space. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, this is so much better, more peaceful. What a great crowd. I'd like to say that to everybody out there. This is a really, really cool community. Very, very cool people. All of you guys. Yeah.
And Gene, I've been thinking this literally since last Sunday. This is flat life. We all know the clothing line Salt Life. Well, bigger than Salt Life is flat life. Instead of Luciferian theory life, take our mind and bring it out of all that garbage. Think over, think again, think flat. Everything, think flat. And like you said, Gene, when we think flat, we can find truth. It's there, we can find it. In heliocentric life, in globe life, we can't find anything. It's all chimera. It's all theoretical bullshit anyway. Okay.
Yeah,
in the flat world, we can find truth. It's there. So James, when you want to find the truth of there, see what I mean? Yeah. You'll never find truth in theoretical bullshit.
All right.
But we can find it.
All right.
Yes.
Guys, a few things we need to still discuss. So I wanted to discuss about the auto-illumination of the moon, because the globe authors, they say directly it's a direct reflection of the sun. Okay, so
from the oceans, right?
Yeah, if it's a direct reflection, the angles, they don't match. For example, we could see a sunset. We see a sunset, and we see the day moon, maybe half moon on the left. The light is coming from the opposite side, or from up, or from down. It's not coming from the sun directly. So how is this happening if it's a reflection? Or what do you guys takes are on how does it illuminate, if it does?
Can I say? Can I?
Go ahead,
start, guys?
anybody.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
Okay. In my observations, always there is no denying that there are shadows on what appears to be mountainous type features, always along the terminator. Okay, so this suggests that yes, there's some degree of tangibility to the moon, and the fact that there are shadows mean that we cannot deny that possibly the sun is causing this, right? Okay, then could we also say that the moon would possibly be 85% self-luminous, 10% sunlit, and 5% earth shine reflection lit? That's my current hypothesis, only because we cannot deny that there are shadows. And also the moon temperature test with the water in sun moonlight versus moon shade, there's a difference obviously, and moonlight is cooler, so therefore how could that be a result of the moon casting sunlight as a reflection? That doesn't make sense. So we're under the theory that the moon is self-luminous to that degree, absolutely, and then, well, in theory, and then casting shadow light from the sun at 10% and 5% earth shine. Do you guys kind of agree on that, or what do you feel?
It's interesting.
So where does the earth shine
Yep,
when the moon goes away? Where's the earth shine then?
Good point.
Good point, right? Good point. So you're saying for that 5% when the moon is new, why isn't it causing the moon to be lit a little bit?
Dim.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so could it be in fact just the simple sunlight is drowning out that effect since it's only 5% anyway? I don't know. Good question.
When a charging, okay, go ahead.
The moon is its own source of light. It changes, yes, it goes to full, then back to zero and back to full again, but still it's its own source of light. And it's cold, right? It's cold, we know that. So it's its own source of light. So
it cannot be a reflection.
It's not a reflection. It's its own source of light. It's just different. It's just different.
And James, I have no idea.
If a source of light, yeah, go ahead, Keith.
I was going to say to James, this may sound silly. I have no idea, but the shadows along the terminator line, could it possibly be that those shadows are being created from the light of the brighter part of the moon as the moon is powering up and getting brighter? You're further away from the
The topography. Yeah, because anything that illuminates, and if we have an object or something in the middle, it can create a shadow because it has light on the other parts. Because.
Right. Very good point. I never thought about that. Holy smokes, right? And I would have never thought about that until I had this talk with you. So therefore, it could, in fact, as Rob was saying, be 100% self-luminous only. Wow.
Yeah, that's what I tend to believe.
But how is it happening? How is that process happening? The illumination. Okay. There are some factors that we need to think about about the illumination. Everybody know about fluorescence, bioluminescence, semiluminescence. There are many kind of luminescence. Okay, for example, we have the algae that glows in the water in the dark. We have the ghost mushrooms that glows in the night. We have the worms, cave worms, that glows in the night. Then we have the, how you call those insects, that fireflies. They're all different kind of, bioluminescent. That's bioluminescent because it's chemical. Okay. Then there is different synthetic stuff or liquid that also glows. So there's a process of that these things through chemical or through charging itself, they illuminate in the dark. Okay. So this is a how you say, a phenomena that can be seen in the nature very clearly. There are stones, right, guys? Also, there are stones called yosemites that glows in the dark. If you put a UV light, these people, the people who look for these stones, they look it with the UV light in the day around the rivers, and they just put the light and they try to, and it illuminates. So if we have a round yosemite, and if we put a UV light, it looks exactly how a moon illuminates. Okay, so if you take a bead or stones, or even a synthetic fluorescent liquid or a bead or anything, that it charges itself with the sun, and then in the night it illuminates. The paints, we have paints that do that too. So there is this phenomena happening of illumination. Then we have the illumination also. Okay, so how is that happening with the sun in context? Is that the sun, as far as our study shows, is not the sun direct reflection. The sun emits also UV radiation. So the moon charges and receives this UV radiation and then emits it back. So when it's full moon, it emits the full moon. When it's half charge, it half illuminate. When it's quarter charge, it's quarter illuminate. When it's zero charge, it's zero illuminate. And what is the reason when it's not fully charged? What is the reason when it's half charged? What is the reason when it's quarter charged? It's because of the electromagnetic center, or the tree of life, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so the sun and the moon moving around with the electromagnetic field from the center going all over like a tree. So there are parts which are lit that this radiation reach the moon, and there are parts that the radiation don't reach the moon. So that are supposed to be the phases of the moon. Okay, more or less.
Right.
Anybody wants to add something before we continue?
Yeah, I have no idea on this, but I'm just saying that in my thinking about this, I wondered if the temperature has something to do with it, that the moon disappears as it gets closer to the sun because it's next to the heat, and the moon gets brighter as it gets further and further away from the sun, all the way to a full moon, where it's at its furthest part from the sun, where it's the coldest.
The heat is local. The sun heat is very local.
Okay. It's not hot till it touches something either. Hey James, I got a question.
Yeah, I was thinking.
Question.
Go ahead.
So you mentioned the Terminator line on the moon. Does it change throughout the night, like it does on Earth? Like in New York, you got the sunset at 6 o'clock, and 3 hours later, across the country, at California, gets the sunset, right? So that's the Terminator line. In 3 hours, goes 2,800 miles on the Earth, right? Does that happen on the moon, or is half a moon all night?
Well, what I've observed, I think. Oh, go ahead. What I'm trying to figure out is, it's all in my mind. It's what I'm seeing is a perspective-based phenomenon. When we see the half moon, okay, sure, its angle is at 2:30 on a clock for me, but someone observing that very same moon sees it at a different
6
angle.
o'clock, right? No. I'm asking if it changes though. Like it
On
would
a
if I was on the moon watching the sunset across the United States, I'd see it go from New York to California in 3 hours. I would see this Terminator line changing.
Yeah.
Right? Does that happen on the moon? I never watched it long enough to really say, all right, so at 9 o'clock it's a half a moon, and now at 2 o'clock in the morning it's more than half a moon. Shouldn't it be more or less depending on the waxing and waning?
I see.
Right?
So you're asking, yeah. So I don't know the exact pace of how fast it seems to wax. Good question. I think the only way to figure that out is if I were to try and determine such, I would film the moon as early as possible, as I could, in the blue sky, and observe what I see on that Terminator, the shape, and then film it at right before set, if possible, and to zoom in as far as you can, and then
measure the pictures up.
Exactly. So
looks like. Yeah, go ahead, James. Finish.
Oh yeah. Well, I've often thought about that. Right. Like, what speed does it actually start to wax? And does it change?
It should show something. I mean, if you can see the moon for 6 hours across the night, during the night, you should be able to see some sort of change.
I agree with you, man.
Maybe pick that up. So I'd love to see something like that happen.
Right, because let's say on one given night it's at 20%, and the previous night it was at 12. Well, that's an 8% difference that had to occur.
Right, where does the change come in? It just pops
up. But it's happening. It's happening continuous. It's happening continuous because if we have difference of 8 hours, we're going to see some difference than what I see here. So because the process is continuous, because we are counting the day as 24 hours or 12-hour sky. When it's
So it should be measurable then. If you can take a time lapse of the moon, it should be noticeable. Take 6 hours and squeeze it into 45 seconds. You'll see that move.
Of course. Yeah, I agree. And
a bit longer, maybe.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. If you get a fair amount of time, I think, and squeeze it into a shorter, I think it'll be noticeable. Just curious because I never noticed it. Like I said, I haven't never really did it long enough in one night to
Well, I'm
say.
glad you're asking these questions, right? Because
Thanks.
thanks for that question. Just having that cerebral awareness in your mind as to always, where is the moon? You got that figured out, right? Do you guys do the same thing? I like knowing where it is at any given point, and I don't have to worry about, if there's cloud cover, I know where the moon is. It's cool. It's fun.
Right.
Figuring it out of how fast it starts to wax. Also, have you guys ever noticed that when it kind of takes its time getting to half, but then once it's at half, man, it really starts getting big faster. I've just noticed this. Yeah. So September 9th will be the next full moon, and the night before, I know you guys, I like to research everything. There will be a 5 a.m. moon set, and that represents what I've heard in a recent podcast by a well-respected guy, Sammy Kelly. He's awesome. He knows the Enoch model. He says that there will be a 180-degree flip of the moon. I'd like to film it. It'd be awesome to see. And the only reason I know about this, guys, is because I am purely by instinct an observer, and I keep an open mind about all theories. So thanks for tolerating sometimes my innocent questions about what is going on and how I'm not committed on certain things. Yep.
What I wanted to add regarding that is when the moon is rising, we see, the down part is the down, the up is up for us when it's rising the east. When it's go 90 degrees, we see on a different perspective. And when it goes is setting, the down which was during the rise is up, and the up is the down. Have you guys noticed about the moon? This one.
Well,
this phenomena that you really see that the whole moon is flipped from the east to the west. I hope I express myself better, but you guys
really
know what
cool.
I'm saying?
Yeah, to document like the changes is fascinating. I hear you, Vikka. It's like, did it jump? Is the theory of being in gates any valid? Is it valid at all? Let's investigate it. Right? It's like definitely moving slowly and steadily. That's what I see. It's a steady, slow motion, and it definitely has like, it seems to be in a relationship that's just pushing and pulling with the sun somehow. So that's why I'm intrigued about like the moon, and I investigate all theories. And that's why, it's important to be able to discuss this with you guys without actually committing to a certain set of beliefs that it's this way, it's that way, that's important, right?
So, one thing is for sure that the phases of the moon is not because how the heliocentric model says. Okay, so we also try to discuss it here in a way, what could be happening because of the illumination and the way because it illuminates possibility and it charges itself. So, and also because of the magnetic field and the center. So there's one possibility of what is other phases of the moon. Yep.
Hey, Vikka, I was just thinking of this.
You're cutting out, Rob.
Accepts energy. Okay, tell you what, I'm gonna.
No, go ahead. Now we hear you.
You could.
How about this? Is this better?
Yep.
Okay. How about this? Is this better?
Yep.
There you go.
What? Okay.
Go ahead, Rob.
Is this better, Vikka? Can you hear me better?
Yeah, okay. We hear you.
I was just.
Can you hear us?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you fine. It was my Bluetooth giving problems. That's all it was. My Bluetooth device. I'm considering this. I studied electrical engineering in university. Okay, if a large power source such as the sun gets close to another power source which absorbs energy, we've already accepted that. The moon absorbs energy, the sun emits energy. Okay, if the moon is trying to absorb everything the sun gives off, guess what? Then the moon is acting as a capacitor. Okay, so as the sun gets closer, the full moon, that capacitor is full, and then as the sun goes away, the capacitor of the moon, we see light as a capacitor, as the energy within the capacitor diminishes. So we keep talking about the moon is the opposite light than the sun. The sun gives off energy, the moon gives off light as the capacitor decreases. This makes complete sense with the moon as a capacitor. As the sun gets closer, it fills up the capacitor. There's no light coming out of it. But then as the sun goes away, the capacitor gets brighter because it's empty. That's fabulous right there.
We know how UV light works, like fluorescent light. We know the fluorescent tube we used to have before. We know it's a cold light, right? So it's also possible, right, that the degree the sun and the moon is in front of each other, if it's 90 degree, 180 degree, 45 degrees, and the electromagnetic center of the earth playing also a part, and the degrees of the position of the sun and the moon. Could be possible that because when it's 90 degrees it's a full moon, when it's 180 it's half moon, or it's
other way around.
It's maybe.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. The positioning to the sun and the moon and the size of the sun makes a lot of sense. And the capacitor is interesting, Rob. And capacitor is just a component, electrical component that holds electricity. And like, let's say you turn your switch off and your light dims instead of turns off immediately. The capacitor drains slowly, and that's why your light will drain slowly. That's a capacitor.
And
right, Rob. That's capacitor. Like the description of it.
Not just light, but energy. I feel
right. Any energy. I'm just using light because that's
exactly.
You know.
And because the moon is the opposite, we see the light of the moon as the light is as the energy decreases. That's the complexity of the moon.
Right.
There you go. That's the complexity of it. The moon is the opposite of of our normal thinking. That's what leads us here. We have to get out of our positive heliocentric thinking to understand the moon. We got to step out of it.
I know.
It's good to know that stuff, but you got to forget about it. You got to let it go. It's not real.
I think of energy. I think of emotions, right? What do you feel when you look at the moon? Man, it's interesting to see if it's a capacitor in a certain degree for just light, but imagine the emotions that we have fed to it. That's an amplifying effect on us. I really, that's what I'm under the belief that the moon might be. It's that kind of is what fuels my intrigue about filming it.
Yeah. So. Okay. Yeah. Belief is okay.
It has that magnetic.
Gotta have some good evidence behind the belief, right?
Absolutely. But the safe area to hypothesize about what it could
exactly
be
right. Have some belief,
awesome.
But then go look for evidence for it.
So true. Yep.
so maybe it's tugging and pushing and pulling on the human psyche like it does the waters.
That's the thing, right? It can't be just a water thing. It's got to be emotion-based, energy-based.
And we are water too. We are 80% or 70% water. So if there is that pushing and pulling happening too, it's affecting.
And how do we determine the globe is garbage? Because water doesn't move and it doesn't curve. Water tells us the truth of all things in that respect, the physical reality.
Yeah, and also depending on the moon, for example, pruning or harvesting depends also on the moon is the reason, because you have excess water in the plant or less water in the plant, depending on the vegetables and plants or fruits you want to harvest or prune, because of the moon, because of that content or the mineral content or the water is inside the earth and the plant. And for some it's better with less water, and for some it's better with more water in the product. So
what you're pointing out here, Vika, is that the moon is essential. The sun is a positive. The moon is a negative. Life cannot exist without both.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
That's great.
Isn't it awesome? Right? It's
Pushing
like
the pull, the yin and the yang. It's all there.
Yeah, that's precisely why we do podcasts like this, right? They want us to think it's just a dusty rock. Come on, that's why, it's an honor to be here with you guys. I really mean it. Thanks. It's cool. Just to like discuss our new reality.
Oh yeah, we are all trying together to decode this, but yeah, we know the heliocentric model doesn't make sense, and we have to we perceive, what we know.
Let's relearn everything, right? We have to relearn, because the heliocentric and all the universities and all the king's men, all the universities, all the schools, all the governments, the military and police, and they're all full of shit. So we got to relearn ourselves, and that's what we're doing here.
Indeed. Awesome.
Oh yeah.
And James, back to it. Yes, it's complicated, but only if we start with a simple origin. It's light in the sky, and now let's start there and understand the high level of complexity. Absolutely, but still, it's designed as a light in the sky to tell us how everything else works.
Agreed.
Part of the clock.
Yeah.
Hey, James, I got another question. Do you know how to backtrack the moon? Like, go back years and find out where the moon was in position?
Yeah, that's fun, man. I do so.
Could you?
Yep.
I'm dying to know, bro. If you could backtrack the moon to when they made the phone call from the White House to the moon, where was the moon? What position? How full? Did you? No.
It was 33%, brother. Can you believe it?
No way. Oh,
you can check it, man, on timeanddate.com. Whether or not it's accurate.
Timeanddate.com, also Flat Earth Clock app. That's another good one.
All right.
Yeah.
That's how behind I am.
Yeah. I love
the Flat Earth Clock app on the Android.
That's so poetic at 33%.
I know what's cool? You know what's cool also is scrolling back in the years to find out like what was like the widest moon, and on like when was it, like 129 degrees is the widest lowest arc that I've seen. But then like looking back, you can go like 1973 and see what the harvest moon was and compare it to the angle. I love doing that. That's fun. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I'm so glad. I've been dying to know the answer to that. 33. Oh my God.
I couldn't believe it when I saw it. It was unbelievable. But
it's so,
it might have,
guys, that is so in your face.
You check it, time and date. At least that's,
and
that's what I think.
That phone call went from Washington to Maryland to Texas to the Pacific to Australia to the moon.
no problem.
That's how that. And AT&T was heavily involved with all of that. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. They kind of ran the communications back then for them. So cool. 33%. I don't know what to say.
Okay, don't quote me on it, but I do believe, because I did check it. I think it was just the one day when they officially made the phone call. What was the moon? What was the illumination? And it was a waxing gibbous. Waxing gibbous at 30. It might have been. You got to check it there.
And they called it like 12 o'clock at night.
Something like that, right?
Yeah.
This is the president speaking. Hello, boss.
I was busy all afternoon, so I decided to call you.
The other thing I wanted to add also is that that the pregnancy also depends on the moon cycle, and also the 28 days makes much more sense even for the calendar. So according to that, there should be not 12 but 13 signs. They're hiding us. They're hiding something from us.
Yeah, and the 13th sign is the crocodile.
You're funny.
The crocodile doesn't care. He just kills and eats and sleeps whenever he wants.
Crocodile.
So 13. The letter 13 is also like a bee. If you combine 1 and 3, it becomes a bee. You say let it be. We're having an echo, guys. Someone have to. Yep. So that's the reason. Also, they don't want the 28 days calendar. They don't want the 28 days month because it's more to the perfection. They want to.
That's why we have a
create.
leap year, right, Vikka?
That's what they say, but so
Well,
in
they
reality,
destroyed it.
yep,
They ruined the
yep,
calendar with the Gregorian calendar.
exactly. And Brian Roy says total back like 28 days, and apart from pregnancy, as we mentioned, it's so many other aspects to it of the moon. So it's like we cannot actually live without the moon and the sun. Definitely, it has its own properties and for its existence, and we know how it's light. So it's it looks sometimes it looks like we are in a big light show. So we see
like a huge planetarium.
Do you guys
Oh yes.
think? Do you guys think we're in a bubble? I mean, it's cool, to think about. Okay, if it's water above and we are in a state of water here, this topic could go on forever. But basically, do you feel like the moon and sun are within us, or are they outside of us? It's interesting. In a word, could you say? I mean, I really feel like, man, it's so hard to tell, right? If it's because they don't appear to be physical. It's like they are almost, they're not, they're apparitions, if such. So I don't know how
like a high tech 3-dimensional, like Project Bluebeam almost, kind of, right?
Who knows, right? It's like
high tech 3-dimensional apparitions.
But man,
yep.
Yeah, that topic
And
will go forever.
James, I don't know if you remember it from one of our podcasts, but I mentioned that. Have we seen a lightning? A huge lightning. It almost lightened up the day, like a day. Even for a few seconds, but it's making the same effect. So, other way to explain that, just at least for the sun, that is that concentration of energy together. Imagine the same lightning, but in a ball. It would be same like the sun, the same way. The way it functions. So from where it's just a way, could be possible that being a light phenomena, why is it that could be possible,
Well, ultimately, yeah, it all comes down to the question of what is consciousness and how are we experiencing this? It's amazing, right? This is the motivation behind our awakening, is to figure that out, like the bigger picture about what is going on. Really, that's the biggest question that I can figure out is how is consciousness happen, and where is it coming from, and how do we, man, that's the whole point of why I'm intrigued with the moon and the sun, right? Coming back to it, right? I keep
And they want
that,
us to think it's evolution, James.
Yeah, just crazy.
From pond slime to fish to frogs. That's insane.
I know, man.
There you go.
Gotta say,
Pond slime to fish to frogs to university professors. There you go. That's the order in them.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah, we cannot really define everything, right? Even we won't have words to define everything, the consciousness or how it's happening, or the sun or the moon. We could try to hypothesize what could be happening, and we are doing this here because we don't believe in their fake model. That's why. So in a way we could put and express in words, we are trying to do with our mind and logic we have, with the eyes we see and we perceive, and we want to know the answers. We don't know all the answers. We hypothesize what it could be, which really resonates with us. So that's what we could do maximum.
You know what would be cool, guys, if you had one person each week who wants to join from the chat, because there's a lot of them out there. I know that they have their opinions too. It would be cool to like encourage more people to come out and talk about this.
Oh yeah, we are open. We have mentioned that before too. That anybody wants from the chat wants to join us for some shows, you're welcome. You just have to be. We're gonna discuss the topic we select. So if you see the topic for the coming week and you think you have interesting things to say, you are always welcome. Anybody from the chat who is listening to us live right now from Facebook or from YouTube or anybody listening later from anywhere, even from RTS. So it's all about to to get to people together and share ideas, views, and bring to the table. Okay, guys. So before we wrap up, I had one more topic to discuss about the moon, and that's the eclipses. So there are many different aspects as we spoke a little bit earlier in the show. That's Rahu, Ketu, the nodes. There are many different theories, in different texts, different scriptures have their own way of portraying it is what exactly is happening. So what's happening with the eclipses?
My opinion, Vikka? Is that
Anybody wants to go ahead? Yep.
Okay. Well, for the solar eclipse, what it appears to be is that something outside of the, let's say, container is causing the light of the sun to not be, shining. But my question is, why is it, isn't it blue? It should be blue behind the sun then if it was happening inside the container. So I think it's happening outside the container. That's my opinion on the solar eclipse. And what is causing the lunar eclipse? I think it's possibly right now, to hypothesize, my best guess that it might be a luminary that we cannot see. Open-minded to that because it's definitely not the Earth's shadow. So there you go. That's what I think about the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. What do you guys think?
All right. Who wants to go? Rob, you want to add something, or Keith, Gene?
Well, I agree with James that I think it's outside of the container. Whatever is causing the solar eclipse is something that is eclipsing the actual source of the sun. I think the sun that we see in the sky, the apparent sun, is some type of projection, and wherever the actual source of that power is coming from, that part is being blocked out somewhere else, not from the moon and the sky. The lunar eclipse is a mystery. As we're talking about the mysteries of the moon, one of the things I talk to people about all the time when they say, "Well, can't you see the Earth's curve on the moon?" Is like, yeah, but the Earth is so much bigger than the moon. You would barely see any curvature on the moon at all if it was actually the Earth's shadow on the moon. It would be almost a straight line going across. So I don't know what's causing the eclipse. I tend to agree with the Vedic cosmology and the fact that there's Rahu or Ketu or one of the north nodes, something that we can't see that is passing between us and the moon.
Here's an idea I just
Awesome.
had. Keith, I'm with you there. The moon gets a reset. The moon goes empty, and then it comes back, and then the capacitor's full again, and then it goes away. Well, the sun needs a reset every now and then as well. Maybe that's part of it. The sun gets a reset during the solar eclipse. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, it could be.
Interesting.
That's just an idea.
Just
Okay. So,
can I?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
Well, it's just interesting to hypothesize about, just briefly. It's amazing to think about. Could you imagine if whoever they are, figured out a way to be causing these eclipses? That's fascinating to think about. But go ahead. Side thought, I just had to say, because
with
it
the
is
additional
intriguing.
sun, right?
Well, we have to consider all things, right? I mean, really.
Well, indeed.
Until
Okay, so
figure it out. Go ahead.
We discussed a couple of different possibilities. So we could. There's some more other possibilities that could be happening with the sun and the moon. We know that it's not what the globe model says, have you guys seen there's a phenomena during solar eclipse, the shadow is behind the sun.
Yeah, I've seen that.
That's strange.
I never saw that.
Because if it's supposed to be in the middle of the two objects, it's supposed to be the moon or whatever, according to the heliocentric model, there's something between the sun and the earth. So how come the shadow is behind the sun?
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah. I'd like to document that. That's pretty cool. To see an eclipse happening and the moon in the sky at the same time. Is that what it was? With the sun in the sky. Correct.
And how does the moon leave a smaller shadow than itself, right? The shadows are always bigger than the object that's...
Yeah, exactly, right? That makes no sense.
2,800 miles across, I think, right?
That's a fallacy, in other words.
Yeah, and it leaves a 60-mile wide shadow. And then they'll call it the umbra and the penumbra and all this nonsense. And
that's all numerology, right?
Yeah, it's all 93 million
numerology.
miles away, so we don't understand it.
Yeah. Any number from them, it's just Luciferian, top to bottom.
33,
It's ball worship, BAAL.
Nixon called the moon. It was 33% full, Rob. How you doing?
Did I tell you? I told you, man.
Somewhere, right?
I told you, brother.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so all right. So what could be other thing could be what could be happening apart from what the globe model or the models we are speaking about? One other thing could be possible, that this distortion could be not from outside the dome. It could be from this plane. Okay, what could be this distortion? The distortion for the sun or the moon, because it's not any. It's supposed to be a celestial body which is invisible. Okay, it could be possible, but the other possibility could be that this distortion is happening because of the Mount Meru. Okay, that's why, because there's an effect called Faraday effect. That means if you pass electromagnetic fields through a light, it distorts. Okay, and so the sun and the moon, their positions.
And Faraday effect. When the sun gets close to the moon, it goes away. There's your Faraday effect. Exactly.
Yeah, but the Faraday effect also have a distortion effect because of the electromagnetic field. Correct, it's not only it's not a cover; it's a distortion, and the distortion.
We can see that in the old television sets. You put a source of electricity next to it, it shorts out the TV a little bit. There you go.
I remember that.
Yeah, so it could be happening because of the Mount Meru. Okay, it's possible that this could be happening. The sun and the moon are getting eclipse because it's the central column, that magnetic energy in the center, and everything is rotating around it. So there's a possibility. Okay, I'm not saying 100% it's happening, but it's one of the possibilities that is happening, the distortions in the light. Because if you see the form of the shadows, as we spoke about, the way it turns, the way it moves, it's very unlikely that it's a celestial invisible body. It's a fixed part. What is moving is the sun and the moon. That's why they can predict so easily the eclipses from thousands of years. They have knowledge which they don't want to pass us down. They know exactly what's happening. They're saying that they're doing all these fracking fake science, and they're like doing everything. That's why they know all the timings of every transit and every eclipses happening. Because if you see, there's not a much difference in a way, the phases of the moon and the eclipse of the moon. It's
well said.
Very similar.
And Vikka, you know what, Vikka, that fixes James altogether. James, you're eternally looking for what's the solution here. Well, they know the solution. They just don't share it with us. Somebody knows what's going on. There you go, James. They know, but we're not getting it, right? Somehow we're gonna have to recreate it somehow. But somebody knows. It's always been known from Adam to now. Somebody has always known. They've just hidden truth from us. There you go.
Agreed.
And that's why we're here.
agree,
Because they've
Rob.
hidden truth. We're trying to rediscover it.
So yeah, summarize, we do not know what's causing the eclipse, but they do know, right? So
There you
And
go.
they know why too. I
They've got
bet
it.
you.
yeah.
And I will tell you this:
Significance.
the Greeks got their astronomy from the Egyptians. The Egyptians got their astronomy from Abraham. Abraham got his astronomy from the Most High, Holy Creator. That's how it happened. I'll just lay it out here. Abraham learned all the astronomy from the Most High, Holy Creator. Abraham. Then Abraham, and then the Israelites. Okay, the Israelites passed it to the Egyptians while they were under captivity, and then the Greeks got it from the Egyptians. That's where it came from.
Rob,
They've handed it down
Rob,
since
did you
Abraham.
see the meme I shared today? Did you see the meme I shared today? It speaks about most of the cosmologies that exist today that speak about this North Pole and this magnetic mountain in their own language, in their own words, in their own ways, word by word. I don't know if you've seen that I shared today. You should check it out. Everybody knew. They knew the real
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
reason. They know the center of the earth. They know this magnetic tree of light that is affecting. A simple way of putting it out could be watching the sun or the moon through a tree. Okay, the sun passing.
Right.
You are watching the sun passing through the tree and how it's getting cut out because of the branches, right? So, or the trunk itself, so the knowledge, it's been where from everywhere. The knowledge is not owned by nobody. The knowledge is of everybody. Okay, that's why our ancestors and all our generations before had that insight, and that's why they could put in symbols and words, everybody, because everybody had that same truth. What we have now is deception at its highest level. Okay, so it's from no one. It's for everybody. It is from everybody. We all are everybody. Okay. So anyway, guys, we're gonna be wrapping up. So we're gonna have our last thoughts about the moon. It could be never ending because the moon is a huge topic, and we know many podcasts wouldn't be enough, and for sure we're gonna have more podcast on the moon too again. And yes, last thoughts about today's topic, and we're gonna be wrapping up. Who wants to go first?
I go first. This is a great topic, brother. I was real happy to be here with everybody and on the panel, everyone in the chats. Dr. Frankenstein, I love you to pieces, brother. The moon, we showed you a couple of reasons, right? A couple of ways that you can go look at the shadows of a ball on a ball, and I would hope you guys try that. It'll show you how it's more realistic than what we're looking at in the sky, and it's not a transparent floating rock that's being held up by gravity. This is things they're trying to tell us, and I thought tonight's conversation was just really, really awesome. It was great to be here with everybody. And Vikka, thank you very much, brother. And looking forward to next week, everybody.
Thank you, Jeannie. Always a pleasure, bro.
Oh, you know what? Let me throw one little tidbit in, a little fun fact about Dark Side of the Moon. Came out in 1973 and was nominated for the producer was nominated for a Grammy, and the producer was Alan Parsons. Went on to do Alan Parsons' project that did the album called Siri, or Sirius, which is Siri now, and they did a song called Eye in the Sky. Creepy stuff, guys, but it's out there. They're talking to us. Matter of fact, it's all dark, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Thanks, Gene.
Yeah, good night, guys. Thanks, brother.
Thanks,
Love
Jeannie.
you all.
Thanks for
Yep.
Thanks for the invite, brother Rob. Vikka. Really honored to be here again. I know that a chance to discuss the moon doesn't always come up, especially with new awakened friends like you guys. So thanks, and yeah, I'll continue to do my cosmos observations. You can follow along on my YouTube, and I don't always claim to be right. I take the neutral stance of a observer first, and that's served me pretty well so far, and it's led me to here. I would have never thought I'd be on a podcast, so thanks, and great to meet you all, and just good talk, great chat. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James, and always pleasure to have you, brother. And yes, people do check out James' channel. Awesome work, and he's also in our chat sharing all his findings. And we're trying to do things, make some collaboration. So awesome, brother. Thanks, James.
Thanks. No worries. Thanks, guys. Yep.
Who wants to go next?
Hey, I'll go. Just about 5 or 10 minutes before the podcast started tonight, I was looking up at the sky and looking at the half moon in the blue sky. I've made a few videos of this. That's just an impossibility on the heliocentric hypothesis. If the sun was really 93 million miles behind the moon, we would never see so much of the moon illuminated when it is so small and close to the Earth. We see the sun is just across the sky, maybe a few thousand miles away, and it's lighting up the moon with some kind of electromagnetic dance. But the fact that we can see such a fully illuminated moon with a blue sky is just one of the simple observations we can make that the heliocentric hypothesis is just nonsense. So I made a little short 2 or 3 minute video of that just before the podcast tonight. I posted it on my Facebook page, so y'all might want to check it out. But yeah, it was a great topic tonight. A good talk. I enjoyed being with you guys again, and hope to be with you next week.
Oh yeah, definitely, Keith. Always a pleasure, brother.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, I'll make my 2 bits. The moon, it's quite a highly complex organism. It's the opposite of the sun. The sun emits a continuous bright white light, whereas the sun emits a dependent light, the opposite of the sun. And as we observe, as it appears that the sun gives light as it's losing, the moon emits light as it's losing energy. And when it's empty, it's when it gives out its most light. For example, if the sun is emitting light and the moon is a capacitor, when the moon is closest to when the sun is closest to the moon, that's when it's theoretically full and it gives off no light. Whereas when the sun is on the opposite side of the circle, that's when the moon gives off its most light. So it's almost like the moon is a reflector. It's a battery that gives off its light when it's empty. Gee, that's the entirely opposite of the sun, which is the cathode to the sun's anode. There you go. Again, back to the electromagnetic nature of this creation that we live upon, in and upon. Simply fabulous. Yes, it's very complex, James. However, it's just a light in the sky. It looks like a capacitor from everything we're looking at. Much more to follow, obviously, but this is where truth is. That heliocentric ball worship, garbage, as everybody says again and again, just garbage. It proves itself garbage every time we put real numbers and real math, real analysis to it. My final comment: Jesus Christ is the Son of God, the Most High Creator. Jesus Christ is all truth. The two most important words ever are Jesus Christ. The most important 2 words of science ever are flat Earth. So what do we have? Jesus Christ, flat Earth. Go with that. Sleep on it. Let's talk again later.
Thanks.
That's all.
Thanks, Rob. Always a pleasure, brother. So yeah, people, the moon.
Thanks, Rob.
You had it today, brothers, and we saw that the rotation of the moon also don't exist, because we never see the dark side. If there was a rotation, or if there was a dark side, we don't know exactly what it is, if it's solid, if it's light. But we were here trying to discuss it so that people could bring in more ideas. We also saw like The way they say about the shape, how it was formed, also is a big lie. You know, being part of the Earth and being the same size as the Moon. You know, the rotation, the synchronicity. You know, it's not working. We also see that it's not emitting the same, how you say, the warm light. You know, of the Moon is not reflecting that warm light. So we also saw that the gravity, there's nothing to do with gravity. It's more, looks like it's more about magnetism and the water and how the Moon really affects us and every human being and living thing on this earth, be it plants, every living thing, you know, from the cycles. And we also saw the phases, that what could be the possibility of the phases of the Moon, and finally the eclipses, what could be really happening and what is the reason of the eclipses. And there is a much possibilities that these controllers are hiding many things from us. And so here we are, people, and for sure, definitely we're going to have more podcasts on the Moon, because definitely it's one of my favorite subject too, and for many of us here on the panel and the listeners. So thank you, Gene, thank you, Rob, thank you, Keith, thank you, James, and thank you everyone in the chat. Make sure you guys check it out, the next episode of Heliopsychosis podcast. Until then, guys, bye.
Take care,
Good
guys.
night. Good night, everybody.
Night night.
Bye, everyone.
Keep studying. Study. That's where we learn. Study it.
Yeah, man.
Keep it flat.
Astronauts to the moon.
Houston, we have a problem.